Hi, welcome to another session of our customers' Power BI sessions in the Microsoft Business Application Summit. My name is Lauren Faber, and I am a member of the Power BI Customer Advisory Team. And I'm super excited to have Melissa, Sean, and Dr. Renda with us today from Humana. Dr. Renda, if you could start us off by telling us a little bit more about what we'll be discussing today, more about Humana, and then introduce yourselves, that would be fantastic.
Well, thanks, Lauren. Yes, today we're going to give a brief overview of Humana. We'll talk about our roles. We'll talk about some opportunities and solutions with using Power BI tools. We'll give a great demo of a new tool that we've developed, and then we'll summarize at the end with some key drivers around adoption of these type of tools. So to get us started, Humana is a health and well-being organization. We're committed to driving best health outcomes for our millions of medical and specialty members. And we do that with three principles in mind. Number one, we want to deliver an easy and seamless customer experience. Number two, we want to help members achieve their best health. And we do that through 5 points of influence: primary care, social determinants of health, pharmacy, home, and behavioral health. And we power those two things with our third principle, and that is to power with integrated technology. And we have a digital health and analytics team. We have an enterprise clinical operating model. And of course, we have a strong partnership with Microsoft. So let me tell you a little bit about my role. I'm the Associate Vice President of Population Health. And now I'm going to pass on to Sean to describe his role.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Chandler. I'm a senior business intelligence engineer working in the enterprise analytics space. And specifically, I build Power BI tools for teams just like Dr. Renda's, and I consult on a variety of Power BI applications throughout Humana as part of the analytics platform as a service team. Melissa?
Yes, thanks, Sean. So Melissa Hooper, I'm a product implementation lead, and my role in enterprise analytics and analytics platform as a service is to bring together business teams like Dr. Renda's and our BI engineers like Sean to create wonderful user-centric designed BI reports.
Thanks for that introduction. That was perfect. When it comes to BI and data, I know that Humana faced a situation that's very common in this industry and in many industries. Melissa, could you tell us a little bit more about that BI opportunity?
I would be happy to, Lauren. Thank you. So in 2018, Humana undertook our beginning of our digital journey. We really formalized it by creating the vertical that Sean and I sit in called Digital Health and Analytics. And as part of the business case for Digital Health and Analytics, we did a survey with an outside consulting firm. And what we found is that our analytics professionals were using 47 disparate data sources and BI tools. Just to let that sink in for a moment, you can imagine that it's very difficult to become a master of anything if you have 47 different tools that you should be a little bit familiar with. So since 2018, our team, along with the rest of Digital Health and Analytics, has been working to standardize our data sets, standardize our reporting tools, and we're really doing that moving toward this idea of the data in our Gen 2 data lake in Azure and using Power BI specifically, but also other elements of the Power Platform so that our analytics professionals can really become experts in the Power Platform and not have to sort of spread their learning journey across multiple sources. And what we're really working toward is this data-driven culture, and that's where our team Analytics Platform as a Service comes in.
What solution were you able to come up with to take advantage of this BI opportunity?
So our current architecture, and we're still in the process of making this transition, is we have very siloed data sets. As you can imagine, finance data about a member, clinical data, all of this is important, and it's all part of the single view of a member, but right now it exists in silos. And so data across Humana is incredibly siloed, and it takes our analytics professionals weeks, sometimes months, to be able to track down the tables, the sources, get connections and access to all of the data that you need. All the data is currently on-prem in EDW warehouses. We have other on-site assets. We're using Natizo, we're using SAS, all of these things to perform the data transformation. So what we're working on right now is migrating our data assets into our Gen 2 Microsoft Azure Data Lake, creating common data sets, getting access through Azure Active Directory groups, and really using the power of the Power Platform and Azure to create these citizen analysts, where we're delivering the right information at the right time to the right Humana associates to really help our members achieve their best health.
So maybe I could take a minute to talk about the subject matter that we're designing our specific tool on. Social determinants of health are the conditions and the environments in which people live, learn, work, play, worship, and age. Essentially, they're the upstream influencers of poor health. Another term that we use that's related is health-related social needs, and those focus on individual needs in the shorter term. Examples are things like financial strain, social support, food insecurity, housing quality. We measure the impact of social needs or social determinants on health-related quality of life, and we use the CDC Healthy Days tool. So now, Sean, I think we have a demo we're ready to share.
Yes, we do. I'll go ahead and take over. From a design perspective, for this Power BI report, the real big challenge in front of us, of course, was taking survey data related to social determinants of health from multiple vendors and tying it all together so that in Power BI we could tell a cohesive story about these different domains and about the screenings related to them as a whole, rather than in these data silos. So to execute this, it was really important that we find a way to compile those multiple data sets from these different screenings providers into a single master table that Power BI could consume for insights in a way that was attractive to our users. So currently, we have about 9 sources for our screenings data, and we know that this number is going to continue to grow as we keep iterating this tool. One of my colleagues, Derek Childers, who helps me on the data side of things, uses SAS to take those disparate data sources from IT for these screenings, bring them together into one single table of members and screenings, and then he puts that into a data warehouse environment that I can grab in Power BI just using a simple ODBC connection. And so in Power BI, my goal then is to take this master data set, which is a very wide table that you can see here has a bunch of different columns, and you can see how many of these are just numeric counts. And what I need to do is I need to figure out a way to transform that table into something that Power BI can more easily consume. I think the first time that I started building this tool, I noticed that some of my visuals were taking 45 or even 60 seconds to load, which of course isn't a very good experience for the users or the consumers of this report. So fortunately, one of the first places that I started in this Power BI report is just in the query editor, where I can take all of these numeric fields that contain my counts of screenings for the different domains and also my counts of members. And I can just pivot this data set, with a simple walkthrough of these processes so that I end up with only one column that contains my different metrics. I can identify those as screenings or member attributes, and then it just makes it so much easier for me to sum up those values into something that a Power BI visual can consume very, very easily. So while that might not sound interesting to everybody on the call, it really is a powerful feature in Power BI when you're dealing with larger, wider data sets that you need to, create a whole bunch of different visuals on for your users.
So Sean, I understood every third word of what you just said, but what I will say is what you're doing there is really, really important to our strategy. As a customer of this tool, and as I try to grow our social determinant strategy in our business, we are screening more of our members. We're collecting more data from different sources within our organization. And so it becomes really critical to collect, to standardize, and to aggregate this data in kind of a seamless way so we can get it into a tool and then create the cuts and the visualizations that we need.
I definitely appreciate that point. And to that end, the collaboration that our team under Analytics Platform as a Service has had with Dr. Rinda and his team to have everyone involved, weekly in the iterations of this report has really made it so much easier for our team to iterate on this tool and add new dimensions to it as we need them, to add supporting metrics to this as they're requested, so that, you can see up here in the top right corner that this is the 19th version of this tool, and I'm already hard at work on the 20th version of it, which is actually maybe our largest update yet to this tool. And because of the close collaboration between our teams and the pipeline that we've set up for this data, we're able to turn around very new versions of this tool in a matter of days or weeks instead of months. So I know that sometimes in the past, adding or changing some of these tools can be very cumbersome for teams.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I know every element of this dashboard and this tool is carefully chosen through our weekly meetings, but I love the ability to iterate on the fly as well, because previous to this and other tools that I've used, it's taken, we have to wait for IT cycles and data cycles, and it can sometimes take months even to make a small change to meet a new business need. So I love that adaptability within this tool set.
Fantastic. And from a visual standpoint, I also wanted to highlight just some of the built-in Power BI features that we're using in this tool to make for a better experience for the users. Because I know we have a lot of people who use this tool who this may be their very, very first time even dipping their feet into the Power BI waters. So one of the first things that we wanted to make sure that we did with this tool was take all of these different surveys, each of which may have their own questions related to these different domains, and create a very seamless way for users to, for example, just highlight food insecurity screenings or just highlight social support. So what I've done up here is I've created a list of icons that I can apply in the Chiclet slicer, which I've downloaded from the Power BI Marketplace. And these icons were selected in collaboration with the Bold Goal team to represent these different domains. And by using them in the Chiclet slicer, users have a very intuitive way to immediately just filter to the food insecurity screenings, or if they're interested in social support, they can do this on the fly, and the tool updates and they can get the information that they've come for. And this is something that, in past tools was just not as easy to do as Power BI has made it for us.
Yeah, Sean, I think that's really important. Another one of the parallel exercises that we're taking in the organization is trying to go through a data certification process for social determinant data. And so we're taking data from all these disparate data sources. We're trying to standardize it, and really map it to specific domains. And then we want to see it visualized in a tool like this. And so exactly what you described is really helpful to us, because we can see the totality of social determinant data, and then we can slice down into one single social determinant domain and understand how that impacts utilization and how it looks from a prevalence standpoint. So it's a really important functionality for us.
And continuing on the subject of standardizing the different dimensions and the different views that are in this report, one of the early exercises that our teams participated in was taking the time to carefully curate this list of filters that we have in the filter pane on the right-hand side. We knew that these were the dimensions that we really wanted to highlight in the report and give users the ability to come in and filter this data by market, for example, or by region, or by state, or by line of business. But something that we were able to do to take that concept even further in Power BI was to create a summary table that contains the different values within these dimensions and put them into their own table that we can then connect back to the source data set. So for example, if someone wants to take this bar chart, and if they don't want to filter by every single state to figure out, which state had the most screenings for food insecurity, they have the ability to actually take any of these filters and select them from this slicer here and update that visual on the fly. So if instead of seeing this visual by state, they wanted to see it by division because that's more relevant to them, they can do that. And you can see how quickly it replaced the values that were in that visual. Likewise for region. So just to give you a couple of examples for something that, Power BI made really easy and really gave our users the ability to come in and not have to spend so much time going through the filters, even though they're important. They could literally just apply those to a visual within the tool itself, and after one click, be done and get to the insights that they were looking for.
Yeah, Sean, I think that functionality is really important. When we think about end users for this, we have regional leaders, we have market leaders, all have different perspectives depending on their scope and their responsibilities. So being able to filter down by those different geographies and different lines of business is really critical.
And something else that we started running into as we were developing this tool, and I think this is something that happens for many developers in any kind of business intelligence platform, is the more stakeholders you introduce to the tool, the more users you introduce to the tool, the more views those people want. And we started kind of running up against a situation where we could conceivably have had more visuals and then could comfortably fit on one tab of a Power BI report. So another Power BI feature that I was eager to implement here that I think is made for a really cool use case is the integration of Power BI's bookmark features. So up here, we give the user the ability to just toggle quickly between some different commonly requested views on screenings. Obviously, it starts with just screenings being a KPI that we wanted to look at month to month. The default option for this is just a simple overtime trend of how screenings are doing and year over year. But if somebody came to this and they specifically wanted to know how many screenings we were getting from each of the different source or different vendors, they can just toggle this bookmark to that view instead. Or if they want to see the screenings broken down by the different domains, that's also easily done. I'll unselect food and security, let the charts update here. But then they'll be able to actually see the different screenings broken down by the domains and what percentage of those screenings were positive versus negative. And I'll wrap up by also just highlighting that the tooltips feature was also something that the more I've used it in Power BI, the cooler I think it is, and the more endless the different applications. We expected that a lot of users would come to use this tool to break down screenings information by geographies or by the different states, for example. So by using the shape map visual and integrating it with tooltips, I was able to take inspiration from the different views that I created up here using the bookmarks and just create a tooltip view for each state that a user could easily just hover over Texas and see a similar breakdown or just like an executive summary level view that they would see if they had toggled through all the different bookmarks. And as I hover over any given state, you can see how seamlessly it updates. And again, that's just another step that we worked through to make the overall experience better for our users.
Yeah, Sean, to me, this is the easy button, right? It creates an executive summary for business leaders so that just at a glance, they can go and see some key metrics for the geography that they're responsible for. So I think that's really helpful, if they only have a short period of time to go in and pick an insight and then make a key business decision.
So another cool thing that we were able to do with the tooltip feature in Power BI that I thought was something very unique to this report that I had never done before was I actually used the tree map visual, which is literally over here just with one single metric that I think contains the number 0, to populate a block over here that I then assign a tooltip for so that users can hover over these little blocks that are very unassuming and actually see like the definitions for the different social determinants of health domains, or if they want to see the definitions for the different metrics that are visualized in this report, or even the filters that are on the filter pane to the right. Users have the ability to come in here and find information about what is in the underlying data. Because again, we have users that come in that may broadly understand what social determinants of health are, but they may have questions about the different fields that they're seeing or some of the different metrics that are being calculated. So we wanted to give users a subtle way to educate themselves or find information if they needed it. So I believe that concludes our demo. And again, it's been a fantastic experience building out this tool, and it's really been exciting getting to share it with you.
Thank you so much for that, Sean, showing us the report that you've been able to build. It really showed me the thought and the specific design that was put into this. I really love how clean the report looks and how I can see that if someone was coming to this report not really ever having used Power BI before, because of the things that you've implemented, like the bookmarks, like the tooltips, like the specific icons, it would still be pretty easy to navigate the report and to understand what's going on. So you can really tell that there was a lot of good thought put into everything that was built. So thank you so much for that. But we all know that coming up with and building the solution is really only half the battle, right? The other half is getting users to adopt it. So what are some of the things that you've been able to do at Humana to drive adoption throughout the organization?
Absolutely, Lauren. I'm happy to take that one on. It's part of what my job is here on the analytics platform. Some of our key adoption factors, you can read this list, but I would say in anyone starting this journey, what was key to us in the beginning was that executive sponsorship and alignment, and really getting the leaders of Humana, our C-suite, and our top-level executives familiar with and exposed to Power BI and what it could do to transform the way they run their business segments. I think education and communication has been key for us. We talked about the disparate tools that people were using before. It was really hard in the beginning for people to understand, this isn't just another tool. I'm not going to have 48 tools now. This is one that you can put in your tool belt that will replace a myriad of other tools. And it's not the same as all of the other analytics tools, but it does work in concert with our Azure Data Lake, with our certified data sets, to create this holistic environment ecosystem that is actually more beneficial for our analytics associates and for that citizen analyst. Our common measurement criteria, you can't measure what you can't manage. You can't manage what you can't measure. Said that backward. We said MAUs were what we were tracking, so monthly active users for the Power Platform, as our way of tracking enterprise adoption. And in the current times, catalyzing events really gave Humana an opportunity to rethink how we were using our tools. And that's where we get into some of the digital transformation that we actually saw as a result of COVID-19. Our monthly active users, since the crisis really picked up, has increased from 97%. And it's interesting because of that 97%, only about 55% is directly attributable to the COVID dashboard. So what people are seeing is how quickly Humana stood up in a crisis, all of this various reporting data. They're seeing that and they're thinking, okay, if we could do that in a time of crisis, how can I move past the crisis mode and think about how I can use Power BI and the Power Platform in my daily operations? I know Dr. Renda was part of our leadership team who was deeply involved in those early, standing up the efforts around measurement for COVID. If there's anything you wanted to add here.
Well, sure. I mean, none of us expected the COVID pandemic to occur. And when it did, very quickly, we had a lot of different things we needed to understand, tests that were available, antibody tests, who of our members were testing positive, and make some key decisions about how to respond. So having access to Power BI tools, very quickly build dashboards to visualize all of that information and to update it in real time was absolutely critical to, both forming our strategy and then executing on it.
Yeah, definitely no one wants to be in the middle of a pandemic, but it really is amazing that we live in a time in the world where employees are able to get information using the right tools and be able to work from home. And just as you demonstrated, Humana has done a phenomenal job of keeping their employees connected throughout all of this. So as we wrap up, is there anything that any of you would like to add before we finish?
Well, sure, Lauren. I'll add 2 points to summarize kind of what our work is around this. Number one, our goal is to create citizen data scientists, to use these tools to derive actionable insights and then to make key business decisions. And that's really what the suite of Power BI tools allows us to do. And the second point is, while we never expected COVID to happen, when it did, having access to tools like Power BI really allowed us to, quickly build the dashboards that we need, derive the insights that we had, form our strategy and our response to the situation. And just that ability to quickly adapt on the fly, create things, get insights, and then take action has been really, really important to our response efforts.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just want to say a huge thank you, Melissa, Sean, and Dr. Renda, for all the effort you've put into this presentation and for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.